Well, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has declared a profit after tax of 5.4 trillion naira for the financial year ended 2024, marking one of its strongest performance since its transition into a limited liability company. The Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL, Mr. Bayo Ojulari, announced the financial results during a press briefing in Abuja. The latest figures represent a sharp improvement from the 2023 financial year, when the company posted a profit after tax of 3.29 trillion naira. The 2024 profit reflects a 64% year-on-year increase, signaling the impact of higher production volumes, cost-cutting measures, and enhanced operational efficiency across its assets. Let's listen to the GCE of the NNPCL.
Enhancing operational efficiency across all our businesses, the positive impact on our downstream market reforms, and our unveiling commitment to cost discipline. Financially, we have never been stronger or better positioned for tomorrow. We are also expanding our pipelines into the east, from Asa North to deepen market into the east. We're hoping to even expand the ELPS pipeline into the west as well. So when you think about the growth in gas production, what has come clearly to us is that to fast-track industrialization, we need to spend more energy in developing the market.
All right, my guest is Professor Uche Waleke. He's the Professor of Capital Markets and the President of the Capital Markets Academics of Nigeria. He joins me from Abuja for more on this development. Thank you so much, Prof. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. Good afternoon, Professor Waleke. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, Professor Waleke. Can you hear me?
Well, let me start by commending the NNPC Limited for publishing the financials for 2024. For me, it's even one big step, in terms of transparency. Now, from that report, we see that NNPC, reported a top line of over 45 trillion naira. And then, of course, the bottom line came in at over 5 trillion, at 5.4 trillion, earnings per share of 27 naira. So I think that's quite an improvement over what we had in 2023 for the top line by over 80%, and for the profit after tax improvement by as much as 64%. Now, it has also come, yes, no doubt, as a result of the reforms that we've had, talking about the fuel subsidy removal. Of course, that, to a large extent, removed the fiscal strain on, the corporation. And, of course, the forex unification, the exchange rate unification, the forex reforms. Because what that does is, of course, if you are carrying dollar-denominated assets and exchange rate moves in your favor, of course, that impacts, positively on your numbers. But again, it has also come, in my view, as a result of, some cost discipline or cost efficiency. Because if you look at the financials again in terms of the 2 years, in relative terms, if you take what you have in the income statement, for example, the expense side, you have selling and distribution costs. If you add that to the general and admin costs for the 2 years, and you relate that to the revenues of the 2 years, you would find that cost to revenue ratio, which is one of the major indicators of efficiency, management efficiency, actually dropped from about 9% in 2023 to 8% in 2024. So, and I think that's commendable. Maybe I should seize the opportunity to react to a story that has gone viral. I'm sure, Tolu, you saw it, talking about NNPC spending as much as 17.5 trillion, naira on just, pipeline, security. I have looked at the financials of NNPC. You can also do so, Tolu, because it's on the website there. Yeah. And I can't find that number, okay? You would expect to see it either in the income statement of course, in the notes So if you come to the notes, which is what we have in notes 9, 10, and 11, where one should expect to see that kind of number, as I said earlier on, you wouldn't find that. Under the cost of sales figures, for example, the highest number you find there is about 8 trillion in respect of the group, petroleum products. And it's even clearly stated there that that amount excludes the 7.1 trillion, energy security expense. And then if you go to note 24 of that document, it explains that energy security, expense, to mean the outcome of the, differential in exchange rates between what they usually set for, import of petroleum products and the price that they eventually pay to the suppliers. So that modulation factor is usually what resulted in that energy security expense. And it's also clear from that report that, the accounting treatment, was very clear that it was done in line with Section 64 of the Petroleum Industry, Act, which requires that that is usually charged or debited to, to the Federation account. So we don't find that actually in the reports of the corporation. So the point I'm making is that I think that report is not true based on what I have checked myself. The other place you find there's something to do with pipeline is again in the cost of sales breakdown in the notes where you have pipeline maintenance costs. Of course, that's around the 100 and something billion. So the number being peddled out there, 17.5 trillion naira spent in 2024 within a 12-month period with respect to pipeline security. I don't think it's it's correct. Okay, so having said that, it's also important, I say, you talked about, sustainability, whether it's sustainable. I think it is, if you check again what we have had, the management has announced a $60 billion pipeline, investments. And then, of course, we are also seeing acceleration in the gas infrastructure, whether you're talking about the AKK, Ajokuta, Kaduna, Kanu, pipeline or the OB3, gas pipelines. Those are meant to, of course, boost domestic, gas supplies. And I can tell you that if the company is able to achieve their target of 2 million barrels per day, by 2027, and 3 million barrels per day by 2030, for me, that will be laying a very solid foundation, for a production-driven, profitability. So I think it's sustainable.
Critics point to a history of opaque remittances to the Federation accounts. Now, how can we be sure that the current model is different?
Okay, yes, I think it's different. Of course, to look at it this way, this is a company that started in 1977. And then by 2021, recall we had the Petroleum Industry Act. And by 2022, the corporation now converted to a commercially, driven company. So we have a new structure, a new legal structure. In the past, you recall, NNPC was more or less seen as a government parastatal, and the accounts of NNPC, were at best opaque. I recall during my time as a finance commissioner and a member of the FAC postmortem committee, the major issue at the time used to be, non-remittance of money to the Federation account. But the story is different now. Again, if you look at what we have read, in 2024, NNPC remitted by way of taxes, royalties and dividends, an amount close to 16 trillion, to the Federation account. So I think the conversion to a commercially, driven corporation, for me, it's the game changer. So I think the model we have now is a lot better than what we used to have.
Okay, now some could argue that when converted to United States dollars or when compared to what other national companies like Aramco, Petronas, Petrobras are doing, 5.4 trillion naira is still nowhere near what NNPCL should report as profit after tax. Now, are you convinced with this latest wave of transformation in NNPC? Do you think it's real?
Well, that's an excellent question. Yes, when you look at the numbers, 5.4 trillion naira. 5.44 trillion naira is about, I think, $3.6 billion. And when you place that side by side with profits reported by Saudi Aramco, as you mentioned, in 2024, Aramco reported over $100 billion profits. Petronas, Malaysia's Petronas, $12 billion. You also have the Equinor of Norway, for example, one of the largest government-backed energy companies in the world. Yes, of course, these companies have had decades of, if you like, integrated upstream, downstream cash flows, and they operating at a very larger scale, than our own national oil company. I recall too, I just told you that it was only recently that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, converted to a commercially driven, a commercially oriented, entity. It wasn't like that before. And to that extent, when we are doing comparison, we compare in terms of, I think what matters in this instance is the context, not necessarily the numbers. And I think the other question you asked about whether it is real, I think it is the numbers they have reported, the numbers are real. And I just gave you, what I think, in my view, would, make that sustainable. You have a company, for example, that, has done a lot in terms of accelerating, the gas infrastructure, supporting the presidential initiative on, CNG, and so on, and particularly the pipeline of capital, projects, $60 billion, expecting to come over the next few years. So I think all of that will really reposition the NNPC, for, to even contribute significantly to the nation's economy. And I think what is going on there now is largely, transformational, particularly in terms of transparency and accountability. That we are even discussing today, the audited financial statements of NNPC. For me, represents a major layer of, transparency.
I think I agree with you that, Prof. Now, Prof, I'll let you go. As a professor of capital markets, what are the prospects of the NNPC Limited shares when listed on the stock exchange? We know that there is still a long way before this, but going where NNPC is at the moment, should Nigerians be excited?
Okay, yes, I think, another good question. I think Nigerians should be hopeful. Nigerians should be excited. The prospects are, very bright. A typical investor, Tolu, is interested in, the prospects, the potentials of a company. So a rational investor is, futuristic. And looking at the potentials of NNPC and all that, is happening now, I think there is reason, there is cause for excitement. If NNPC comes to the market today, Tolu, I am going to be one of the first to, want to buy the shares of NNPC. But let me also say this, that the idea of, doing an IPO or coming to the market is not going to be a sprint. It's actually going to be a marathon if we have to lean on or use the experience of other national energy companies that have also done that. A good example is Saudi Aramco. Now, Saudi Aramco, we know today, is a listed national energy company. They started the process in 2016 and didn't end it until 2019. It was actually in 2019, November, if you recall, that that process ended. And by December of 2019, the first shares were sold at the Tadawul. The Tadawul is the stock exchange of Saudi Arabia. So it took quite some time. Of course, again, drawing from that experience, it's something that requires first, structural legal change. Saudi Aramco transformed, became a joint stock company. In our own case, that has also happened. And the NNPC is now NNPC, limited. The legal, nature has changed, and it's also, something that requires financial, transparency, and that's very critical. And financial transparency will mean that you have many years of audited financial statements. And today, again, for us in Nigeria, we're also beginning to see that we have today the audited financial statements of NNPC. And again, it's important to note that these audited financial statements, of course, PwC, a reputable company, and two others are auditors of NNPC. And they have issued an unqualified, clear report, saying that the numbers, the accounts of the NNPC represent not just a true and fair view of the result of the operations, but also their financial, position, as at the end of, 2024. So financial transparency is important, and again, very important is the issue of governance. Governance here will mean, for example, there has to be, strong internal controls, risk management systems, and of course, more importantly, the company must have, very qualified people, both on the board and in the management. And the good news today is that if you look at the composition of the board of NNPC in terms of the people that are there, I can say, that that corporation today is a management IPO ready. Looking at the, especially under the leadership of Bayo Ojulari. If you look at the profile of the non-executive directors there, you would agree with me that these are people that have caught their feet in the oil and gas industry, whether you're talking about Henry Obi or Austin Avoro or Yusuf Usman or David Ige, and the rest of them. And I think, as I said earlier on, they have competent people there. In fact, somebody said one time that if this set of people are unable to fix NNPC, then we should forget it. For me, we have the right, the right peg in the right hole, and that is a plus when it comes to doing an IPO. Of course, the issue of culture and process, I think I'm pretty sure they're working on. The CFO of the group CFO of NNPC Limited, Shegu, made reference to that, a couple of weeks ago.
All right, Professor Owaleke, that's our time. Thank you so much for your time on the program and your interesting analysis on these figures. I've also been scrolling through and reading through these figures. Thanks for more clarity shared into this. Professor Owaleke, Professor of Capital Markets, President, Association of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. Do enjoy your week. Have a great one. Thank you.
My pleasure, Tolu. Thank you very much.